She looks out the kitchen window, pauses, then smiles. She just got a great idea for where to put the first note. Moving stealthily, she opens the back door.
We're at the Elks Lodge at the Telluride Horror Show.
Yeah.
And this is day 2. I am Patrick with Transmissions from the Campfire and also an author of the short story collections Day and Night. And Paul Tremblay here with me is one of the current icons of modern horror writing, along with Stephen Graham Jones and Grady Hendrix. They form sort of the 3 amigos of horror, kind of like what King, Kuntz, and Barker were 30 years ago, frankly. Like, you're at the bleeding edge of this whole thing.
Well, that's the the kinds. I mean, what's so cool is that there are so many people doing great stuff. So it's definitely certainly more than 3 of us, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I'm glad you took the time to talk with me.
Yeah.
How many of these festivals / conventions do you speculate you've been to at this point?
Oh man. Well, this one specifically is my 4th one, but geez, I don't know. I mean, I've been going to conventions for over 20 years. Yeah, I'm lucky that in the Boston area, there's always like 2 or 3, so it's easy for me to drive through. Like one called ReaderCon was like the first one I really started going to. So yeah, the short answer is I don't know. It's a lot of conventions.
Over 100?
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe, yeah. When you sit down to write, do you do it like at a computer? Do you use a tablet now? Is it an old inkwell and a quill pen?
I wish I could write longhand, but I can't. Well, I'll take notes longhand.
Yeah.
But no, when I like sit down and just actually start writing, it's always laptop.
Laptop, all right.
I started writing when I started teaching, so it was always like me trying to steal an hour or 2 a day if I could.
Right. You don't ever do like a longer sprint of like 4 or 5 hours, anything like that?
You know, over 20 years now, I've trained myself to write that way. When I had a year off from school, I was able to sort of like build up to writing for longer stretches, but I don't know. Even though I'm writing for short stretches, so much of the writing happens like when I'm not thinking about it actively, which is maybe a weird thing to say. Like,
no, I
enjoy
like,
it.
Yeah, you're thinking
I'll
about
often
it.
get like the ideas of fixes or things that are coming next. I'd say more times than not happen when I'm actually not writing.
Oh, nice. That's groovy. I had watched this interview with Roald Dahl, and he said he needed a thermos full of like piping hot coffee, a warm blanket that he puts over his legs, and like a freshly sharpened jar of pencils, you know, so to really get in the mode. So is there anything that's kind of key for you? Is there like a particular, you know, chamomile tea you gotta have right there? Some shit, you know what I mean? Or is it? Yeah.
Well, the short answer is like no, and like I try not to have like rituals because I don't want to have to rely on that.
Oh.
When I was younger, I was much better at. I have 45 minutes. I'm just gonna do it. Like when my kids were younger, I wrote a chunk of Disappearance of Devil's Rock at like a baseball clinic, where my son was. Because it wasn't baseball games, it was like a practice with like hundreds of kids, so I didn't need to watch them. But I just put, headphones on and balls would be flying around, but I was writing. So for me, it was a good lesson in like, no, like you don't have time to be precious about like, how am I going to start the juices?
Right.
I'm not as good as that as I used to be. Like if it's a weekend or a day off, I do enjoy having like a big cup of tea before I start, or have it there as I start.
Nice. Good guess.
And sometimes I've actually sort of inadvertently trained myself to write to music. Before it just became I needed it to block out what was going on. But I do find sometimes putting on certain soundtracks help me fall into the hole in the page because I've done it so many times before. But I can't write with things that have lyrics because I pay attention to lyrics.
It has to be like some like dark academia from YouTube or something where it's just like monotonous organs and
I'm
stuff.
usually listening to movie soundtracks.
Oh,
they're kind of fun.
Like what?
Yeah. Well, so I wrote a ton of books to the Ravenous, 1999 Ravenous.
Dude, stop it. That is seriously on my top 10 list.
Yeah.
Damon Albarn.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Dude, oh my God.
You can't find it, like it doesn't stream anywhere, unfortunately, anymore. It's on YouTube. That's the only place. Like it's not on...
Unless you own the DVD, right?
Yeah,
like,
which I own an actual CD of the soundtrack too. I found it like used randomly, like a long time ago. Yeah.
That's awesome. Ravenous is like one of those movies where you show it to people and they're like,
what is this? Yeah.
This is so fucking good. It is like amazing. I love that.
Great.
So based on your previous interviews that I've checked out, you've spoken about how your love for the written word is often at the forefront of decisions that you're making during the creative process.
Yeah.
I think you come at it from, I don't want to say a more intellectual way than some of your contemporaries, but if there was like the literary breakfast, the horror breakfast club, you'd probably be the brain.
Yeah.
Right? All right. When it comes to horror, like what subgenre speaks to you the most? What, like classic romantic horror, gothic? What?
I don't know if it's a subgenre, but like I'm a sucker for. Well, in general, I'm a sucker for voice, narrative technique, and character. Like, I have to, like, any of those three things really draws me in. So, like, for narrative technique, like House of Leaves was like a really important book for me to read.
A brownie badge if you got through that, right?
Twice. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's so great.
I don't know. Like, one of the things I love about horror is like every time you say like, "Oh, this is my favorite," I don't like this, or like I'm sick of zombies, then you read, something that's amazing, like Colson Whitehead's Zone 1, like just an incredible zombie novel, or Stephen's zombie novel. So, I mean, I guess I suppose that I fall more towards like supernatural horror as opposed to sort of slasher, like
more
human on human violence, mainly because it just really upsets me, really gets to me.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I was gonna say a lot of times I do that. Like when it comes to like kids stuff. Ever since I had kids, it's like for me there's like, and then I'll still find myself writing where like a child dies, and I'm less affected by it.
Yeah. No, that's funny for sure. Like when my kids were born in 2000, 2004. It definitely changed my writing because it became like the fears of being a parent. My wife went in the opposite direction after she had kids because she introduced me to Stephen King. She was an English major, I was a math major. In college, that's where we met.
Yeah.
So for me, I said that I guess I had to work it out. Like I've killed many a kid in my stories.
Right.
Whereas like my wife, Lisa, can't. For a while, she's come back to horror some, but for a while she couldn't watch anything. It's just funny like how people deal with, becoming a parent. There's nothing that you can do to prepare for it.
No, I used to have like no problem with seeing, but like even the other day I showed my 8-year-old Poltergeist for the first time, and I was like, I was feeling this internal anxiety that I had never felt before with any of those other times, because I was like actually half worried about Carol Ann and her brother. Like I was actually a little worried for them. So having a master's in mathematics, do you find that it has any effect, any form on your work?
I'm not sure. Like, I mean, maybe it does. I mean, I feel like sometimes I might approach the story building somewhat analytically, but I feel like that's me trying to retrofit some sort of explanation that I don't necessarily have. But there are times like I think of, depending on the story, so like Cabin at the End of the World and A Head Full of Ghosts, where I really wanted the ambiguity there the whole time. I did sort of imagine it as this little logic experiment, like where if I put a piece of information that would make it lean towards one thing, I would have to balance it out. Is that math? I have no idea.
Yeah. No, that's groovy. So let's see. You once said the character in your novel, the young man in Disappearance at Devil's Rock, Tommy, was not based on your son of the same age, though he was the same age, but rather the kid down the street. Do you often use people from your life to model or inform character architecture in your work?
Oh, absolutely. But although usually it's less than I'm taking their personality and just taking actually their physicalness, what they look like. And for me, that's just a nice little step ladder into the story.
Right.
And for me, like I know it's hard for my friends and family to understand if they're reading about someone who looks like them. Like as soon as I have them do or say something in the book, they become a totally different character to me.
Your contemporaries, perhaps jokingly, or often earnestly, refer to you as the one who writes the uber bleak stuff. Why do you think you're so comfortable in approaching those subjects?
I don't know. I want to know. I'm curious. I want to know what the set of characters are going to do once this thing happens. Like, that's to me the most fascinating part of any sort of story is once this, either if it's a horror story, something terrible happens. Like, but I want to know what are the characters going to do now? Like, what decisions are they going to make? Like, how do they live through this? How does anybody live through this? Like, I don't know. Those are. And so often for me that turns into like, oh, I want to make this maybe possession story feel as real as possible, or to make it feel real as possible. Bad stuff's going to happen that has lingering implications. It's not like everyone's going to be the same afterwards. So I don't know.
Right.
It's just where my brain goes, I guess. Yeah.
That's cool. Have you ever used your writing to square up, take the piss out of, and or deal out a little literary revenge on anyone in your real life?
Oh, hell
like
yeah.
Maybe a teacher that pissed you off something like that, or
right. Usually no one like sort of that close to me, but yeah, I'm not above taking revenge on.
So, Head Full of Ghosts was initially optioned by Focus Features, and you've spoken to the process of getting the novel from the page to the screen, and I'm curious, of the books you've written, which other novel would you most like to see adapted? Is it Head Full of Ghosts, or would it be Disappearance, or do you really...
Maybe Head Full of Ghosts, I don't know. I'd love to see a horror movie made. as well.
Yeah.
I like them all, mate.
I'm about a quarter to a third of the way through horror movie, and I'm loving it. It's great. Okay, and then name a book or film for me recently that just blew your mind, blew your hair back, other overused metaphors for being impressed.
Well, movie-wise, I love Long Legs.
Yeah.
Just love sort of the feel and the vibe, as the kids say, or actually the older kids.
Yeah.
Vibe is more
The vibe, right? The vibe is the big hot keyword now.
And so, really quickly, 2 books. One book by a new writer, Alex Gonzalez, called Wrecked, R-E-K-T.
Okay.
Talk about bleak and brutal. Holy cow. But just very smart, really different and interesting. So look for that. I think it's in the early 25. And then I was going to mention a book by a Spanish author called Victorian Psycho, which, I mean, the title itself just tells you what it is.
I kind of like that, yeah.
Well, similar to like American Psycho in a way.
Okay, all right. That's, now you're speaking my language. I love that book. So what's on tap next for both here at the festival and then like just in your career? That's the final question.
Well, I guess I'm kind of done at the festival. I did my things, so I just get to hang out now.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Catch a few.
Yeah. Get some food. And then I have a middle grade book coming out next summer.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to that.
Thanks.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Groovy.
Right on.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing what you do and being an inspiration to, middling authors such as myself. And so, anyway, thank you so much.